This conference will now be recorded.
Hi all. So welcome to performance testing with JMeter Code to master level, and today will be day 3, or you can say demo 3, right? So talking about uh, yeah. So in day 2 we discuss about the intro and version related thing related to JMeter, right? And Java installation, then JMeter installation and the launching on Windows, Mac, Linux, and there are two ways generally to launch JMeter, GUI and non-GUI mode, correct? So we have seen that. Now today here we'll enter into core concepts of performance testing. Okay, so uh, yeah, uh, so to start with, we'll first learn about what is servers, right? So server is a combination of hardware and software, right? Software by itself is of no use, right? It needs to be installed on hardware, right? So basically, see, whatever the application we use, right, whether it's Amazon or whether it is Flipkart or any application, it's kept somewhere, right? Kept somewhere. So where it is kept, uh, it will be on a hardware, correct? Hardware, and then inside that a OS will be there. Generally, most of the people use Linux OS for the server. Okay, Linux, and inside that the application will be kept. Okay, application will be kept. Right, it's they are in very huge size. It's just one I'm talking about. Later on, we'll see more a design of the servers, right? And the application will be kept. It will be very huge size, and that is known as infrastructure also, right? The application infrastructure, and the people will access it. So what is server? Server is a combination of the hardware part and the software part as well, right? So it's like our laptop only or our desktop. So we have hardware, right? We have CPU, we have memory, and the whole hardware, and on inside that we have that the OS operating system, and then inside that we do our activity, so like that, right? So what is server? You got the idea. So whenever we talk about server, so server means a combination of the hardware and the software, right? So a bigger size hardware will be there, like hardware, CPU, right? The CPU that we say. So let us say our home laptop CPU are i5, you must have heard, or i7, or nowadays i9 has also came, right? 7th generation or 11th generation going on, right? So that is processor, correct, for normal use. Same way RAM, but the CPU for CPU for servers, they are of server grade. Okay, they are like Xeon grade processors by Intel only. Generally, Intel makes most of the hardware thing. We have AMD company as well, right? But generally, most of hardware are made by Intel company, right? The processors. Okay, so they have only difference is they are of higher configuration, right? And everything RAM will be high, all these things. But it's like a laptop only, right? If you want to know more about, okay, and one more thing, wherever the setup is kept, right? Wherever the setup is kept, that is known as data centers, correct? Now coming to this data center, earlier, few years back, every company was having its own data center, right? But nowadays, all have are moving to cloud. Cloud is nothing. Okay, what is cloud? You must have heard of cloud like AWS cloud, right? And Oracle cloud, right? Oracle, then Google cloud, then Azure, Microsoft Azure. So what is cloud? Cloud is nothing. Those company are providing infrastructure, right? This kind of infrastructure. So you said what we have seen, the data center, right? Where my application related everything is kept. Let us say Flipkart. So many component of the Flipkart will be there, right? So many will be there. We do not have blueprint of its architecture, but see, like assume that so many components of that application will be there, in terms of servers, right? Which is a combination of hardware. Somewhere it will be kept, right? So earlier, everyone, and that is known as data center, correct? Data center or infrastructure also. So earlier, generally every company used to have their own infrastructure. Nowadays, since cloud has come. So cloud is nothing like, it's not it's what is the cloud in exit, right? So this infrastructure which earlier the company has to have their own, now it has been moved to some place, right? Generally it's moved to USA, because USA is a very secured company, means state, or you can say country, right? People believe it is also there, right? And technology and security wise, everything is there. So those company provide these services, right? And they keep they maintain these data centers, right? They means they will give you hardware, they will give you all the necessary software to keep your application, right? So instead of maintaining in-house, this was known as earlier in-house, right? Now it is kept on the cloud. So what is difference here? Difference is nothing. In cloud also you will have hardware, okay, you will have software. Only thing, this worrying about this in-house infrastructure, that is gone, right? Let us say in India, if I have to keep data center, so in Bangalore generally many people keep, or in Mumbai they will keep, right? Because they see, people say this is the safest city in India, right? So but again, let us say that some terrorist attacks come, all is gone, right? Like that. So the security, major security region, and many things, right? Technology and one many enhancement. Plus if data center is going on backup, anything, early, like many stuffs are there. So earlier it was a little bit difficult. Now by coming of cloud, many features has came, not only security, many things has came, right? So okay, so you got the idea uh, cloud, right? So it's cloud, there also you have server, but the server, the infrastructure they will give, right? What you have to do is you have to buy, you are buying their server, right? You buy their plan, hourly basis, you keep your application there and people use it, okay? So that is the difference between cloud and in-house, right? In-depth difference is there, but that is high level. Next, we have types of servers. So web server, application, DB server. So about these three, we'll discuss later on. Some other servers are also there. I've kept here as a notes for reference, right? Next is protocol. Okay. So protocol is a set of rules and guidelines for communicating data between two devices. Okay. Generally between client and server. Client means user, remember. Okay. See in IT industry, okay, in IT industry, client has two words, two meaning. Client means two meaning. Okay, one meaning is, uh, one meaning of client is the project owner. Means suppose you go to any company and you work on the project, right? So the owner of the project will be known as client, right? And another meaning of client is user. Okay, user. Okay, so here the client means user, right? Now so for an example, let us say uh, we are accessing our any application through web browser, right? So the we are opening a browser and then accessing any application. So that communication that is made, that follows a rule, set of rules and guideline, and that is what known as protocol. So there are different kinds of both protocol, right? Many protocols are there. Maybe you have learned this in network and communication chapter in engineering as well, right? Even the Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, these all comes under protocol only, right? They are kind of a protocol. So uh, related to performance testing, generally these are the protocol that we focus on, like HTTPS, FTP, SMTP, SNP. Many more are there, right? Many more are there. So here our major focus will be on this, right? So that is the definition of protocol. Now coming to PTLC life cycle. Okay. So, in we have software development life cycle, then similarly we have software testing life cycle, then we have bug life cycle, like bug life cycle. Now, similarly we have PTLC life cycle, okay, performance testing life cycle. Now, this PTLC life cycle is generally categorized in 6 to 7 phases. What is the first phase? First phase is NFR gathering, okay, non-functional gathering. Now, what is this non-functional gathering, right? So, non-functional gathering, is, you can say, requirement gathering also. Let us say on any project that you are going to work, or let us say you are going to do testing, so some requirement needs to be gathered, right? So that is known as requirement gathering. Now this requirement gathering, when it comes to functional testing, right, so they call it as a BRD, business requirement document, or some other name is also there, okay, BRD document. But since it is performance testing is kind of non-functional testing, right? It's a part of non-functional, so that's why they call it as a NFR, right? Non-functional gathering. So you will heard this NFR more often in performance testing, right? Now what? So that is what NFR gathering. Now in NFR gathering, what is there? A few lists. You can have a watch. This will be shared right later on. So application architecture, right? Then you can see here. Uh, like what type of application it is, what is technology used, what is the database used, so many, right? It's a little bit detail I have kept, right? So how many number of user you want to run for, what is the response time you are expecting, what is the concurrency, okay, test data related issue, okay. So means all the related thing related to that, means all the information related to that project where we'll be working on will be gathered, right? That is what uh, requirement gathering. This is a sample I've kept, and there are many other uh, points we focus in requirement gathering. Generally, like senior people are involved, right? After 3 or 4 or 5 plus years of experience, people involved in this to talk with the client and to gather the requirement, right? So once that related to number of user, concurrency, think time, throughput, right? Architecture related thing, application architecture, environment details, right? Test data related thing, okay. Stability, response time, right? SLS, service level agreement, right? The full form SLA, like these things will be there, right? So once that requirement is gathered, next step will be test strategy and test planning, right? So in test planning or test strategy, what is planned? That budget setup, right? Like budget means budget, right? You know, like in how much we have to get this done, how much price, right? Who will be the resource working on that? What will be the tools that needs to be picked? Then protocol, right? Protocol just we see, right? So basically, so how the company the communication is happening between the application which will be testing, right? So it will be working on some protocol, right? So that protocol we have to identify. Then environment setup, right? Environment setup means environment means a kind of, you can assume like in layman's language, it's a house, right? Where a replica of the application will be given and we have to test there, right? So that is known as environment, correct? Environment. So these things will be done. So here okay, so once that is done, then this phase 3 starts, the test design or test scripting. Okay, so we'll see this. So our course will be here in this phase 3, phase 4, and phase 5. Because why? Because only in these 3 phases a tool is used, a PT tool is used. Okay, remember, any performance testing tool is used, right? Because this above 2 phase is just a human kind of intervention, means like human is interacting and doing the stuff, right? Human means the senior people or whoever, right, of that company. And then again this 6th phase generally, uh, uh, wait, no, here this these 2 phase, test execution and rerunning, right? You can say, so rerunning comes under this only. So in only in these 2 phase, you can say a PT tool is, any PT tool, any performance testing tool is used, right? Once so we script, right? So what is scripting we discussed, then after that scripting we execute the test. Once the test is executed, we get the report, right? So that report analyze result, we'll get the result analysis and preparing a format in terms of report, right? Then doing some benchmark, what is the definition of benchmark, we'll see later, and providing some recommendation. So again, this is a direct human, means a person, right? A employee, a performance testing or engineer will be doing that, right? So any tool is not used, it's just a it's like how I'm reading this or kind of thing, so I'm involved, right? So any tool is not involved. So where basically in this performance test cycle, PT tool is involved in only phase 3 and phase 4, right? So again, this is human intervention. And then rerunning means executing the test again and again, so that is rerunning. So basically up to 6 phase only, this is an additional phase, right? Running the test again, right? Let us say there is a testing you have to do, and you did for 1000 users, right? And you see that response time of that test is more than 3 seconds, right? More than 3 seconds. So it will, so that you will see by analyzing, right? Analyzing the result and preparing the report, then providing recommendation when we provide by analyzing that result only. So then it will go to some senior level. They will, or the developer, they will work on that. They will try to minimize, they will see the things that why this is so high, right? Then they will try to fix that. Then again they will ask you, now we have fixed that, then again you try to run, right? So that will, again you have to test that. So that is rerunning, right? So so most of the our course content will be like will be in these two phases, because here only PT tool is used and we'll use JMeter, right? So let us understand about test design and test scripting. Okay, phase 3. So test design or test scripting phase. Here, what first thing is done, like identification and documentation of business or test scenarios. Okay, so we have to identify the business or test scenarios and then document them. So identification and documentation of business or test scenario, or we can say that business or users flow, or user journey, okay, or user story, right? So it's all same name. What is meant by business or test scenario, will understand, do not worry. So you can call business scenario, many people call it test scenario. You can call it a business flow, or users flow, or user journey, or user story, right? This all have same meaning, correct? So identification of this business scenario and their transactions, right? Along with critical scenarios and feasible and non-feasible scenarios, right? This transaction is also known as user action or test steps or test cases, right? So let us understand about test scenarios first, then we'll understand about transaction. Okay, and then again I'll come back to recording. So I'll just give you overview. So once that is done, identified, then we do recording. Okay, so yeah, first let us understand about that. See, this is about all the I have given a list of all the scenarios, you can say business scenarios for an e-commerce website. Let us take as Amazon, you can take, right? Amazon, or you can take Flipkart, right? So see, business scenario means the user flow or the user story or user journey in layman's language. So what are the different types of user story or user journey is there on an Amazon? So it will be like, let us say that a person coming to buy a product, right? So he will do what? So that this buying a product will be termed as a business scenario, right? We'll give a name as business scenario, or business flow, or a user journey, right? Or a user story, correct? Or a user flow, right? So and so a person who wants to buy a product, so what he will do, he will open the Flipkart or Amazon, then he will search a product, then he will add it to cart, then he will log in, then he will check out, then make the payment, right? All these things will based up, it's not all in detail, just an idea I'm giving, right? So this step is involved, right? So that overall story that he is doing, right, that overall this thing that he is doing to buy a product. So this will be commonly called as a scenario, right? A scenario, a business scenario or test scenario, right? Test scenario. We call it as user flow as well, or user story as well, or user journey as well. Same meaning, right? So that user has this journey, correct? Same way, and this step that he is doing, that step is known as transactions. Transactions, okay, transaction for that scenario, right? This transaction is also known as uh, user action or test cases, you can say. Generally you can say it user action, right, in layman's language. Like that, what are other scenario that can be there on e-commerce website? Like let us say a user who has purchased some product, he want to cancel it. So cancellation scenario, right? and these will be the steps in that steps or the actions that he has to do to cancel a product, right? So whatever this action he has to do to cancel the product will be its transaction, right? 10 transaction for this scenario. Same way, you are doing a registration scenario, correct? Suppose you want to be a buyer on any website. So first you have to create an account, right? You have to register, right? So registration scenario, right? Name will be registration scenario, and these will be the steps involved in that. So these steps are also known as user action, because these are the action that he will be performing, right? We will be performing, a user will be performing on any action, so on any application, right? So whatever user action that we will be performing on any application, that are known as transaction. And all transaction has some journey or a flow or a story, right? So let us say there are some 10 transaction for that buying a product, there are some 15 transaction for registration, like that. So right, so that common name for that overall action, we call it as a scenario, right? You got the idea? Same way, buying a product, canceling, registration, complaint, right? Raising complaint, giving feedback or reviews, right? So that is from buyer's perspective. Same way, from seller's perspective also, like uh, see, Amazon and Flipkart are not the seller, right? They're platform, there are many sellers. So any seller, he want to add their product, right? So for his scenario and his transaction, you want to delete any product, so that is the name his transaction. Then his product request or his registration request will be approved by admin person. So that scenario, right? So like that, on any application there will be so many scenarios, right? You got so many scenarios or so many user story or user journey, right? So technically it will be called as business scenario or test scenario, and each such scenario will have user actions, right? User actions. So that user actions are known as its transaction, right? So right, so you got, so that is what a transaction is, and uh, a scenario is. So we have to do identification and document. So whenever you are going to test an application, you will get the application, so you have to identify what are the scenarios on that which I have to work, and what are the transaction involved in that, right? So after identifying, you have to document them as well, right? With critical scenarios and feasible and non-feasible scenarios as well. Critical means some important scenario will be there, very important scenario, so those are termed as critical. Okay, so let us say for an example of like Flipkart or Amazon, this one will be considered critical because this is the main scenario, right? It is going to generate revenue. A person who is buying a product, he's generating some revenue for Flipkart, right? So that will be like main scenario. All are main only, but in that some very crucial scenario will be the, that is known as critical, right? Then feasible and non-feasible. Feasible means which we can do, which we can test using any tool. Non-feasible means which is not doable, which we cannot test, right? So that also you have to identify and document. Once that is done, we have to do script recording. So so this is again human work. Here the, from here the tool will start. It's a part of phase 3 only. So script recording, it's basically uh, recording or capturing the request and response for each transaction or user action, right? For a particular business scenario on any application, or you can say on that application, right? So we have to record or capture the request and response for each transaction, right? Each transaction, there will be many transactions we have just seen. So for each transaction, right, for a particular business scenario on an application, right? So so record, what is recording and capturing, we'll see later on. First, let us understand this request and response, right? Then I'll come and I'll explain this all again. No need to worry. Let us jump few slides. So to understand that, first let us understand about HTTP protocol. Okay. Yeah. So HTTP protocol, HTTP or HTTPS protocol. So this protocol, right, in general, is the communication protocol for web application. between a browser and the application, right? So any any application, right? Any like Amazon, Flipkart, anything that which we access through a browser, right? Which we access through a browser. Okay, any browser, Mozilla, Firefox, Google Chrome, right? So which we access through that browser, those are known as web application. Okay, web application. So the communication between that browser and the application, the protocol which is involved between that is known as HTTP protocol. This HTTP protocol is a communication protocol for others also, like mobile apps we have, right? Mobile apps, Android app or iOS app. So they also communicate using HTTP plus APIs, right? APIs, REST API or SOAP API. They also communicate using this HTTP protocol, right? Now this protocol has 5 schema. What are those? Request, response, headers, request method, and a status code, right? This protocol is known as a stateless protocol, means it does not remember its previous state or information. Okay, so we'll see this later on. Now next point, like a user or a transaction, right? A user action or a transaction on a web application generates HTTP HTML request in the form of URL to the server, and in return server sends us the response, right? So let us understand this. So to understand this, I will open two browser. One is Mozilla Firefox and another is Google Chrome. So this is Google Chrome on this side and this is Mozilla Firefox, right? These are two famous browsers. Okay, now uh, in this browser there is a tool called developer tool. Okay, developer tool, fine. So if you want to bring that developer tool, there is a shortcut called F12. That developer tool is also known as dev tool. What short form? Dev tool, right? Dev. So you have to press F12 in your keyboard and that will open. Or you can bring like this way. If you right click here on this page, you'll see view page. No, you'll see this inspect, right? Inspect. If you click on that, this will open. So the thing that open here, that is known as dev tool, right? Same way, it's there in every browser. Okay. So you can go through right click and inspect, or you can press F12. So I'm just pressing F12. So you see it's here as well, correct? Now in this dev tool, few tabs will be there, right? You see, it's there in every browser. It's not like that it should be only in this every browser. So few tabs will be there. You see, in this is Google Chrome, right? And this is Mozilla Firefox. So here you see this element tab. In Mozilla Firefox, they call it as inspected tab. Then here console is there. Console is here also same. Then here debugger, here they call it as a source. Then we have a network tab and here network tab. Then this style editor is not present here, not an issue. Here next one is performance. So you see here also performance and few more tabs are there, right? If you see memory, application security. So here also memory, right? Some application. So you see most of tab will be common, right? Most of the tab you see will be common in all the browsers. Few will be like here and there, means it may be not present in all, but the most important tab is there. You see like inspector, console, network, performance, memory. It will be present in all the browser, right? 5 to 6 famous tab. Now here in this tab, you see this elements tab. Okay, we can drag. Whenever you will try to open first time, it will come in downside. Okay, it will come downside. I have moved it to left and right hand side, right? You can also move there. There will be some setting over here you have to check, and you can move it to left hand side. Or I'll see here. Yeah, you see these three dots. You have to find this three dot, and you see dock side. So generally it will be like this way. It will be downside, right? Whenever you first time open it, and it looks better on right hand side. So I keep it on right hand side. Okay. Now this elements tab, or in Firefox it's known as inspected tab. This tab is very widely used by automation people. By whom? Automation people. Okay, automation testers. Why? Because they have to find XPath. They have to find elements. Okay. So this inspected tab, right, or here elements tab, same thing. So it is used by them, all right, very widely, right? Okay, because they have to write XPaths for elements, right? And the whole automation is based on the XPath only. Okay. For our, right, the performance tester, this tab is very famous, the network tab. You see, we have to work in this tab here. Okay, network tab. We will be using other tabs also, not in like console or elements. We go to elements tab as well, but for us, this is the main tab. Okay, network tab, right? Now in this network tab, you'll get the idea of the traffics. Traffics means whatever you do on an application, it sends some request. It sends something to the server. So that's whatever it's sending, that is known as request. Okay, request. And in return, the server will send response, right, to that thing for that action. So that will be known as response, right? So request and response. But that is, and this communication that follows HTTP protocol, right? Apart from this request and response, there are more things. Headers, request, and a status code will be there. So we'll talk about this. So before talking, focus on this. Any user action or a transaction on a web application generates HTTP HTML request in the form of URL to the server, and in return, server sends us the response, right? So any transaction, okay, any user action. So for an example, let me open Flipkart. So suppose for product booking, right? Product booking. Let us say, uh, suppose I want to buy something. So I'll obviously I'll launch, then I'll search something, or I'll click on mobile. I'll choose some brand, right? Anything. I'll choose the model. So you see this small thing that I'm doing, that is known as a user action, right? A user action. Generally, the user action is like click only. At the end of day, if you see, it is click. Okay, whether you are doing clicking on here, so that is a user action, right? So, or you can say it's a click only. Or let us say you click on, you fill the details and then you click on submit button. So that is also a click, right? So at the end of day, everything you do on a website, that is kind of click only. Okay, it's click, right? Or we say that as a user action. So you see, like so many, I open the website, then I click on mobile, then I click on mi mobile, then I got so many models here. From here I'll choose any one, then I'll click on that. Okay, then I'll read about this. If I like, I'll click on buy now, right? Then I'll click on buy now. It's asking some detail. Okay, so obviously, like, I have to choose pin code. Yeah, it moved to here, then I have to sign up, then I have to choose delivery address, then order summary, then payment, and then in last logout, right, after booking logout. So you see this small action that we are doing, that is what user action, right? The whole scenario is what? It's the product booking scenario, business scenario, or test scenario. Name is business scenario, test scenario. But the small user action that we did, right, basically in form of click only, that is what? Transactions. Technically that will be known as transactions, correct? Transactions. Now any website, this happens, right? So a user action or a transaction on a web application generates a HTTP HTML request in the form of URL to the server, and in return server sends us the response. So anything you do, any user action you do, so let me Uh, so currently I'm in network tab, right? So here some traffics you will see. So that what, right? Whatever the things goes on, the request and response, that is known as traffic, right? So the traffic idea you will get here, right? That's why this tab is very important. In this tab, here a few things will be there. Let me explain. So this red button, you see, this I'm telling about Google Chrome, right? Later we see to Mozilla Firefox. Red button means it's a red, right? It's capturing the traffic and it's showing you. Okay, then this button will clear this stuff, right? Same way in Mozilla Firefox also it will be there. You see this for clearing your recycle bin is there. Okay, and for not recording, you have to check here, right? So that part is not important. The clearing is important, right? So here traffics will come. Okay, so I will do what? I will clear whatever here, and then I'll click on Flipkart as a fresh. So see, when I'm clicking on Flipkart, you see so many things happening here. Generally, we do not know, right? But yeah. So what I did, I opened the URL called flipkart.com, right, in address part. So this flipkart.com goes as a request. Okay, that request is generally in the form of HTTP HTML request. Okay, HTTP HTML request, and in return, so that goes as a request to the server, Flipkart server, right? And from that server will respond to that request if that is correct, and in return the response comes, fine, and we get this page. Now, as a fresher, right, I'll suggest that if you want to know more about this, you practice on Mozilla Firefox, because the view, right, the information, the idea that will get, it is more good in, or more good, or you can say more beautiful or more detail in Mozilla Firefox compared to our Google Chrome, right? So I'll suggest that have Mozilla Firefox. So here I'll show you. I'll open amazon.in, www.amazon.in. Okay. So you can see here my Amazon, when I send this amazon.in, um, here few things will be irrelevant, right? So we do not have to focus on that. We have to focus on my application related URL, right? So this is application. So you see this is the request, and its type is HTML, right? Document HTML, and one more here, right? This is the main one, HTML, right? If you wish, you can click on that also. So if you click, you'll get more idea. This is what, right? HTTPS www.amazon.in, which I'm sending, right? So it goes as a request, right? And in return, server sends us the response, right? We'll talk about all these things, do not worry. First let us understand, right? So any action you do, let me clear this. Now let us say I will click somewhere, right, on this TB or whatever. I'll click. Okay, so I'll clear what some stuff here, and then I'll clear. Okay, something is coming. Some since these are live applications, some requests are always being made to the server through the browser. We have to ignore them. Okay, so let me click here. So once I clicked here, you see one more URL got generated, right? So I'll just copy them first, and I'll put it in a notepad. Okay, so first when I open launch means I open the Amazon, this was the request, right? It went and response came. Now what I did, I clicked on some image, right? Something or TV related. So you see a new request is going, right? New request. So that is what any user action or transaction on a web application generates a HTTP HTML request in the form of URL to the server. Okay. And in response, in return, the server sends us the response. So that went, and in return we I'm getting this response, right, through the server. So if you want to see this, just scroll up. If you want to see this request over here, just try to find where is that request, that node equal to this. Yeah, here. Many things you have to ignore, this thing do not focus. Fine, try to find this, right? See, so request type is HTML, right? Initiated, they call it as a document. And if you click on this, you'll get the whole detail. So you see this all details are there. We do not have to focus more on that, right? We have to understand the concept. So you see when I clicked a one more URL got generated, right? And it went as a request, and in return I am getting the response, right? Response. Now this response for anything always comes in code format, right? So I'll come to that one more time. I'll before we see there or we go there, let us explore something more. So let us say I want to buy or this, right? So obviously I'll click on that, right? So let me click on that. So again, when I clicked on that, you can see here one more request got generated, right? Because that is user action, right? Whatever the click I'm doing, the user action I'm doing, that user action will be technically turned as a transaction, right? So what we got here, that any transaction that we are doing generates a new request to the server, correct? New request to the server, and in return we get the response. Got the idea? And type of this request will be generally it will be of HTTP HTML type, right? Or in Google Chrome, if you see this kind of request is known as document, right? Document. Or in Mozilla Firefox, you will get a detailed idea. So let us say again new request got generated, right? So if I go and check it here, just scroll up, just try to find this URL somewhere here. Which one? I think this one. Yeah, this one. Okay. So you see document and HTML, right? Type is HTML, then document, right? So that is the request. Okay. So you got the idea, like whatever click or whatever user action click, or you can say user action, or you can technically that is known as transaction. Whatever we do, it generates a new URL to the application, to the server, and in return we get the response. Now in this is divided into few parts. Okay, this part that you see is known as protocol. Okay, obviously we are using HTTPS protocol, right? That is what HTTP protocol. Then this part that you see, which is common here, that is known as domain. Okay, or it is also known as, so IP name, IP address, IP name, you can say IP name or address, right? Or we also call it as a server name, or you can call it as application URL, right? URL also you can call main URL, application main URL, right? So domain name or IP name or address or server name, right? Or URL, right? Many name it has. Okay, you see the main part. And after this, so it is not changing, right? You see, it's not changing with every user action, that is constant. Now after that, whatever the change things is changing, that you see, that is known as sub URL, sub part. We call it as a path or sub URL, you can say, right? Sub URL, right? So you see, when I clicked on that logo, this was something else. Then when I clicked on one monitor, then this is something else. Like that, you got the idea. Any action you do on any website, you will always observe that a request is being made, and that request is of type called HTTP HTML, right? HTML. And how you can figure out that using if12 dev tool in network tab, right? You can check on this. Now the response, okay, the response which comes. So again, before I go again, let us say one more time, I'll just do to, let us say I want to add it to cart, right? Or I want to click on buy now. So let us say I'll click on buy now. So again, you see the URL will change. Okay, not complete URL, but yeah, but obviously the request URL will change. See, it's changed, right? This part remains same, but this thing changed. That is what path or sub URL, and you can find that URL over here. Yeah, this is right. This one. You can click on that, right? It's a little bit big only, right? So ignore what is there in that. We do not have to understand. We have to understand about the HTTP protocol, right? And what these things are. So that request is going, right, and in response I got this page, right? Or any all the response you have seen, right? Whenever send this request, I got some response. When I send this request, I got some response. When I see this request, I got some response, some other response, right? And now when I send this request, I am getting this response, correct? This works for any website, any website. Here I am sending Flipkart, I am getting this. Now this response always comes in code format, okay? See, in this format. I'll click on raw, this format, okay? In this format, the code, because obviously something is some language is used to develop this page, right? And whatever the source code, so the response always comes in code format from the server. Fine, let it be for any, even for this Flipkart, I send this request, you see flipkart.com. If you go to response tab, you see other tab will be here, many tab. Whenever you click on that request, you will see header, preview, response, cookies, all things here as well, right? Headers, cookies, request, response you'll get. So when you click on response, uh, you see the code. This is the code, right? It comes in code form, and it's a little, it's big only, it's very big, right? You see it's very big, okay? Or if you want to know more on that, if you click on any page and you see view page source, so this is the code. So any response that comes to us, that comes in code format, right? Code. So request goes, response come, and that response comes in code format, right? Now once that response comes to us, then what happens? That comes always in code format. After that, the browser works start, okay? Browser will render this code, or you can say it will process it code. So while processing, it will download embedded resources over here. Now what are the embedded, what is embedded resources? Embedded resources are, just a second, let me close this. You see these other thing like CSS file, PNG file, JavaScript file, a font, again PNG, image, right? Image, right here less are there, but if I go back, there were more. So here images will be there, more images are there, so you see so many images here, right? uh, so I'll come to that. GIF image, JS file means JavaScript, right? Just remember, this is font, OFF2 font, CSS, cascading styles, it's CSS, JavaScript files, then image, right? JPG, image, GIF, image, JPG, all are image only, right? So on, because the main response was in code format, right? You see, if I click here, see the main response was in code format. Now when this response comes to the browser is rendering this, right? It's you can think like that. Suppose you write a source, you write a program, so you compile that program and then it gets executed, right? So think like that only. This code comes to the browser and browser is compiling or it's rendering, right? Now in this process of rendering, first it's download all the resources. These are called resources: image, fonts, logo, JavaScript file, cascading CSS files, right? All these it downloads, and then after downloading, it will process and then it will make the website beautiful. That is why we see this beautiful, right? Okay. And why these things are called embedded resources? Okay, because they are embedded on the main page. So the request which is going and the response which I'm getting, the response is known as main request or main response. Now in this, this all will be, this all images or CSS file or PNG file that you see, their information will be embedded. Just to show you, you will check a few, right? So what I'll do, I'll first close this. I will open the right click here and I'll go to view page source, right? So this is the code, right? Now we'll focus on any image. Wait, yeah. So let us say, uh, let us find some image. Okay. This image. I'll hover my mouse or I'll just click here. Okay, it's this is one image. I'll find some good image. Let us find some good image. Okay, see this small monitor. Maybe it's reflecting. Maybe it will be present on this page somewhere. So many images are there, right? So yeah, anyone, any other beautiful. Okay, you see this image, right? Let us find that image. So this a mobile and then a screen is there, right? So it will be there on this website somewhere on this page from top to down. If you scroll somewhere, it will be there. Okay. Let us say some other will see this airport, right? So we have to find, right? This page is big. Okay. Yeah, you see this here. Okay, like that. Oh, that earlier image you see, it is here, right? So like that, right? Image, then JavaScript. Now the information about that, right? This image, if you go, if you check this name, if you click here, and if you find let us say this is the name of that image. If you try to copy, right? I have copied that, and this is the main code, right? If I do Control F, and here I'm trying to find through Control F. Here I paste. So you see the information is kept, right? Same way, any JavaScript file or any CSS file. Let us say this is a JS file, right? And name of this file is this. This is the name. I'll just copy that and I'll try to find on the main. It's embedded here, right? So that's why these are called embedded resources. So what if we understand is, what you understand, that whenever you send a request, means whenever you click something, a request is sent, and that request is known as main request. Okay, main request, and the type of that request will be HTTP HTML, correct? uh, HTTP HTML. Okay, let me just reload again. So wait, just a second. It's that, why that is not coming? Just a second. I'll do what, I'll clear all the things, and again let me reload, because so many things are there, right? So it may be missing somewhere, or I'll show you again as a phrase, right? So that those F12. So whatever action we do, right? So that main request will be of type HTTP HTML. Okay. Ush. Uh, if you want to find in better web, see here some other tabs will be there. Okay, so if you click on all, so everything will be shown to you. It will be little bit confusing if you want to just see about the HTML request. So if you click on that tab, you can find here, right? Same way, let me click somewhere one more time. I'll click on this laptop. So see this request HTML, uh, right? Document HTML request. So that is the main request. Apart from that, few other requests will be there, right? So that I'll come to that. Like here, two types of three HTML requests are there. We'll see that. Um, okay, but what the understanding is, okay. Let me click on all. So you see, yeah. So you got the idea that whenever we do some activity, a request will be sent, and that request will be of HTTP HTML, and in response, code will come, right? That code will be rendered by the browser. The code, right? Code for obviously the response, right? Response is in code format. It will come, and that it will be, or many people say it's a text format or plain format. Okay, plain also code form, and that then it will be rendered by the browser. While rendering, browser will download all the embedded resources that is available in the response, right, of that, right? So we see that all the information about this was there in the main code, right? Main code. So they were downloaded, all the CSS file, image file, everything, and this whole thing was processed, rendered, and then this website becomes beautiful, right? Beautiful. Now in the right, so this is all clear, right? So likewise, if you do many transaction, we can have many such HTTP HTML request on the application, right, or the server. So collectively there are many such URL on the application for as many number of users, right? Action, right? So how many action you are doing, you'll have that many URL, main URL, and the response will come in code format, and that will be rendered. And when the things are getting rendered, that's why we see so many activity, other thing. But if you just want to focus on HTML, so click on this tab, and only the real, HTML related thing will be shown to you, because uh, this thing generally we not focus in performance testing. Okay, so I'll come to that. There are two types of testing. One is client side, one is server side, right? So we'll see that time. First, let us understand these things. Okay, so right, so that is the thing. Okay, so anytime we do any activity, a request will be gone, will be going. That request will be of HTML type, and then response will be coming. The response will be in code format, right? And then it will be rendered. While rendering, there will be embedded resources on that. Those embedded resources will be in form of CSS file, JavaScript file, or JPEG, PNG, SVG, XD, fonts, OFF, favicon icon, and they will be downloaded, and then whole thing will be rendered, and then website will look beautiful, right? And why they are called embedded resources, I've explained, right? Because they are their information, right? Their information is embedded on the main HTML page, right? The main response which is coming in the code, their information is there, it's embedded, right? That's why these are known as embedded resources. Okay, so this is what the request and response concept. Now before we see other thing, let me explain about what CSS JavaScript file does. So a CSS file, you see so many CSS files were there. This CSS file full form is cascading style sheet. Okay, they are useful for beautification of the website. They are used for beautification of the website. Template, you can say, right? Template, how it will look, the look and feel is decided by CSS file. Okay, then JavaScript, JS file, right? We see so many JS file also, you'll observe here. All are JPEG. Then somewhere JS will be there. JS means JavaScript, right? So JavaScript files, JS file, right? It does logical functionality on a web page, on user end, right? On user end. So for one example, I'll show you. Let us say I'm going to log in here, and I'll here it's asking, this is Flipkart, and here it's asking enter email ID or mobile number. Now in mobile number in India is of 9 digit, 10 digit, right? I'll just enter 9 digit. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And then I'll click on login. So it is going to throw me a message. See, please enter email, a valid email ID, mobile number, right? Now let me rectify. So now I have rectified it to 10 digit. Now again, if I'm clicking login, then it's showing please enter password. So see this kind of logical activity, how this page is knowing that this mobile number was of 8 digit, it was not correct, because some programming is written, right, to check that. Or even though let us say this I am given correct, now when I'm clicking on login I forgot this. So how it knows that I forgot to enter password, and then it's sending me this message? So that things are done by, so this is one example of JavaScript. Like there are many functionality will be there for that page, which happens on the user end, right? This kind of conditional or logical thing. So these are done by JavaScript files, right? So like that there will be so many JavaScript file will be you'll see, right, for that particular page. Okay. And then uh, there will be like other thing, right? JPEG, PNGs, right? Just a second, my system has hanged. Yeah, so there will be JPEG, PNG file, right? Images, fonts, so other thing, right? Other thing related to beautification. So image in the form of some PNG will be there, fonts will be there, image will be there, GIF will be there. Okay, GIF also a part of image only, and JPEG file will be there. Okay, so these things, uh, the image, right? These are image or PNG or favicons. Okay, icons. You see those things are will be there, right? So these are what embedded resources will be there. Okay. So so schema is still we are yet to discuss, right? So we have discussed like what is request, what is response, right? Now what is a transaction, right? What is user action? When a transaction happens, what we see, right? We have talked about F12 developer tool. We have talked about embedded resources. Okay. Okay. So I think that will put hold for today. Mm. Yeah, so for today, up to here. Tomorrow, up to develop embedded resources. Right? Tomorrow, we'll talk all this. Okay, fine. Right. Thank you.